Representative, welcome back to the program.
Good to be with you. Thanks.
So yesterday, the vote on the budget bill was postponed. How would you have voted if that vote did take place?
Well, the way it was in the political climate, I would have voted no. We didn't have the votes for it, and we needed more reassurances on the cuts that we need to sustain our budget and our deficit reduction. I think we have a long ways to go yet, but I think today we're going to have some reassurances publicly from the Senate and from the presidency, and I hope that helps it move it forward.
What kind of reassurances are you looking for? Can you be more specific?
Yeah, that we can lock in the 1.5 trillion. That's the hard number. I know that when the Senate came out with their budget, they had $4 billion in cuts. That's just not satisfactory. I know that they said we can fix that in the reconciliation and rescission process, but I think we wanted more reassurances to make sure that we didn't get out of line from what we had originally intended.
And your views on the tariff, the Trump tariffs, as far as the reciprocal tariffs and then the pausing of those reciprocal tariffs for 90 days?
Actually, I'm really pleased with the way the tariffs turned out so far. I had many concerns. I have constituents who basically have car dealerships that were going to have a really hard time with the tariffs from Germany. I had some that had built batteries in Vietnam and were bringing over. They specifically avoided China because they knew that was a problem. And that 46% tariff there would have really crippled their business. Several other people with several other businesses in several other places, those didn't come to fruition for several reasons. First of all, to have 50 countries come to President Trump and say, let's go 0-0, to have the EU come and say 0-0, to have Japan, Israel, India, Vietnam, Cambodia, all kinds of nations coming and saying, let's make a deal. That's very beneficial to all of us, because when you get rid of tariffs, you have better free trade, more competition, it forces the price points down. Actually, it would be deflationary and help our economy simultaneously. So it was a bit of a game of chicken, but Trump definitely won that. As far as pausing all tariffs right now, I think that's a separate issue, but I think it had to do with the bond market, but also the fact that we have so many countries actually willing to make a deal right now. So I'm really excited about that.
Do you think that that would have happened had there not been that announcement that many economists were calling drastic as far as those initial tariffs being put in place?
No, I think really, if you think about, I saw the market's always going to react to all kinds of things. But the fact that it was already a done deal. The European Union had already come and said, let's do 0-0 tariffs. I mean, that's phenomenal to see the major players, all the major economies in the world other than China had already come to the table and say, yeah, let's make a deal. I think the hard work had already been done and we're on the right path. So I think it was a reaction basically to something else, and I think maybe just realizing that we have them in a very good place to make a deal with us and benefit the entire nation.
Audrey Fahlberg of the Conservative National Review said this about the conflicting messaging on tariffs. Quote, for several days, the White House has projected conflicting messages about the strategic endgame of the president's trade policy. Is it making tariffs permanent to fundamentally restructure the American economy, or using them as a negotiating tactic to bring tariffs down towards zero? The president has offered little clarity on the matter. Pressed on Monday whether the tariffs are permanent or negotiable, he said, quote, they can both be true. What do you think of that, Congressman? Do you think those tariffs should be permanent to restructure the economy fundamentally, the American economy, or is this a negotiating tactic?
Well, I'm one of those free market trade guys, so I hope they are permanent. I hope they are 0-0. I think that's what creates the greatest competition. I think the United States, when it's unhampered by unfair trade regulations, does quite well, and we've proven that over the amount of time that we've been a major economy. If you think about it, we have the largest economy by far. We're approaching $30 trillion in GDP. The next nearest is under 20, that's China, and then everybody else starts at about 5 trillion, which is Japan and Germany, and it goes down from there. So whatever we've been doing historically has worked, but I think we can even do better without the reciprocal tariffs that people, sorry, not even the reciprocal tariffs, the unfair tariffs that we've had placed on us historically. I think it's about time that we got to a fair trade point, and that's only going to benefit the United States. So I hope it does become permanent. I hope it is 0-0. I'm not real big on protectionist tariffs. I don't care if it's on steel or anything else like that, because I think it harms the climate. It encourages unions to force prices up, and it ultimately can put businesses in a very disadvantaged place.
If you'd like to join our conversation with Representative Rich McCormick, Republican of Georgia, you can do so. He'll be with us for about 20 minutes until the House gavels in. The numbers are Republicans, 202-748-8001, Democrats, 202-748-8000, and Independents, 202-748-8002. Congressman McCormick, I want to ask you about the SAVE Act. It's expected to come up for a vote today in the House, and that requires proof of citizenship in order to register to vote in a federal election. I take it you support that.
Absolutely. I don't see why anybody would want to vote in our elections if they're not citizens. I don't think they should vote in our elections if they're not citizens. I think the great majority of Americans believe that you should be a citizen to vote.
And that is already illegal to vote if you are not a citizen. The criticism of that bill, though, from the Democrats is that it is making it much harder for legal American citizens to vote. In other words, only about 50% of Americans have a passport. You would have to find your birth certificate. Your name would have to match. So married women would have to show additional documentation in order to vote if they've changed their name after marriage. What do you make of those criticisms?
Well, first of all, it's pretty easy to change your ID. It is extremely, especially in today's digital ID era. It doesn't take much. First of all, most people don't require any of those things. If you change your name through marriage, most people change it on their driver's license too. But if you didn't, all you have to do is bring in any form of ID. Any form of ID that you have, which you have. You have all those things you just mentioned. But the average person doesn't have to do that because the average person doesn't change their name. You can either change your name on your ID, your driver's license, or bring in another form. So it's pretty darn easy. I mean, everybody has a form of ID. Everybody. Everybody has a birth certificate. Everybody has a passport that travels overseas. And if you don't have that, you had a driver's license, you have a birth certificate, you have so many different forms of government.
Well, but a driver's license would not be sufficient.
That's not true.
So you're saying that
if you have a driver's license that has your name on it, is absolutely sufficient.
Because that does not prove American citizenship, though.
So
you can have a green card
you're right.
and have a.
If you're correct. So that's not how it's going to work, though. No. So if you are not, you're supposed to have an ID that identifies you as as somebody who's a foreign national. You shouldn't have a driver's license that allows you to claim U.S. citizenship. There's supposed to be a special mark on your driver's license that designates you as not a citizen. And I think that's something that most states have.
I want to ask you, since you're a practicing medical doctor, you're also from Georgia, which is where the CDC is located, about cuts to the HHS and healthcare, the staffing at HHS, and also research funding, so federal research dollars going towards medical breakthroughs and biotech innovation.
Yeah, so it depends on which one you're talking about. I haven't seen the specifics yet. A lot of the details have not been hashed out. When you're talking about cuts done by bureaucracies, obviously we don't have purview over that. I'd like to see what the president's going to ultimately do, because sometimes they pause things and then they re-up it when they see the fallout on that. In other words, I saw it with the CDC. The CDC was pressuring us to hire over 200 new employees just for their viral area of research, and that was over COVID. I didn't think that was necessary. I told them it wasn't necessary. And I'm an ER doc, and actually my former attending is one of the senior members of the CDC. So we can have those debates all day long. If you're talking about cancer research and stuff like that, I think it's very important we continue to invest in things that will benefit all Americans. But we have to make sure that the right people are in the right place at the right time, especially given our budgetary concerns.
So NPR is reporting here, the headline is, on top of layoffs, HHS is ordered to cut 35% of spending on contracts. Are you comfortable with that, Congressman?
Depends on which contracts. I haven't seen all the contracts.
All right, let's talk to callers. Here's Steve in Maitland, Florida, Republican line. Oh, we lost Steve. Never mind. Here's Teresa in Buffalo, New York, Democrat. Good morning, Teresa.
Good morning. Just want to make a statement, but also a question. So much money is being used, and the budget is such a big thing these days. How is it that Trump is allowed to personally use so much money for himself? And then on top of that, how do you explain a budget being added $100 million for a birthday for one person? So why isn't the budget being considered how much money is spent in military, on President Trump's personal agenda, and how can we allow $100 million to go to someone's birthday? Can you explain that to me, sir?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any $100 million birthday.
Teresa, what birthday celebration are you talking about?
Trump has an agenda of having a birthday, military birthday.
Oh, this is the Army's.
June.
This is the Army's birthday and the military parade for D.C. That's what she's talking about.
But when have we decided to spend so much money on something that's pretty much not going to help the American people? So much money is being used for unnecessary to study cancer research. Just why are so much money going towards military and Trump's agenda?
Yeah, as far as the military goes, if you're talking about a parade, I don't know that it would cost $100 million. I don't know where that number comes from. I haven't seen that number. Military people are paid whether they do parades or not. We use gas for training whether we do parades or not. I'm not sure what the cost would be other than closing off the streets, which we have police officers who are already paid to do that too. So I'm not really sure where that cost is coming from. Not sure where your figures are coming from. I haven't seen that, so I really don't know what to comment on that. Sorry.
The Washington Post says parachutists and maybe a military parade for Army's D.C. birthday bash. It says President Donald Trump intended to host one during his first term, but backed off amid pushback from the Army and D.C. officials.
Yeah, once again, we use money all the time for parachuting and for training. They can combine that, that's fine. That's not a real cost. That money is going to be spent by the military regardless. So it's not like it's going to increase the budget, unless I misunderstand what's going on. I haven't seen the budget on that. I haven't seen the plans on that. I'm not sure where the money's coming from. I don't know what pot. That's a really detailed question I can't answer.
Joseph, Point Pleasant Beach, New Jersey, Republican. Good morning, Joseph.
Good morning. How are you? How you doing, sir? Thank you for your service. I just got a couple of things I just want to say. I'm ultra MAGA, and I kind of get upset when I hear guys like Rand Paul talking about, oh, no tariffs, and you just said the same thing, free trade. We're never going to have free trade. For the last 80 years, we've been supporting countries militarily, Canada, Europe, now Ukraine. It's never going to be free trade. If all the money that we're spending, the tariffs won't make up for that. And another thing, too, do you think I'm a New York City kid, so I didn't know this was going on. My wife is from Detroit. So every time I go out there, I see how decimated that city is. I had no idea that American companies were closing up shop in our country and then going to Mexico and Canada and then bringing those cars back into our country. You don't think Trump has a right to tariff those companies?
So when you come to, I think Trump's ultimate goal was to get to 0-0. It opens up markets overseas for us. The fact is we've been punished for selling things overseas because they think we have an unfair advantage by being America. But what this does is he put tariffs on them that were reciprocal. Actually, he would say that were less than what they put on us. So his ultimate goal was to get them to relent on their tariffs. So I think what he was trying to do is actually what worked, and that's what I'm in support of. He did something that a lot of people would never thought of doing because it was a game of chicken. Because if you have everybody else double down on their tariffs, then it could end in a trade war, and nobody wants that. That's not beneficial for anybody. So I think what Trump did was genius. It got us to where we wanted to be. And if you're ultra mega, you should be absolutely happy with what his results were.
Here is Franklin in Washington, D.C., independent. Good morning.
Good morning. Rich, I'm also ultra mega. And I agree there's only two genders, and I also agree you guys have rightly focused on voter fraud, which brings me to a major concern of mine is why have we never seen Marjorie Taylor Greene and Dog the Bounty Hunter in the same room? Are you concerned that Marjorie Taylor Greene is, in fact, Dog the Bounty Hunter? And what are you going to do to investigate her broad?
Anyway, let's move on to Sharon in Bemidji, Minnesota, a Democrat.
Good grief, huh? All right. Mimi, I have a question for C-SPAN real quick, and I've asked it, I think, every single time I call, is whatever happened to the round tables where we can bring in two representatives from both sides and we can ask questions to both of them? But I can tell you, I've watched this show for 30 years, and it changed back in 2016. That's when we quit doing it. And I just don't understand. I really wish we could. I mean, we had the Democrat on half an hour ago, and now we got this guy on. I'm sure we'll hear something about, oh, it's our schedule, blah, 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 whatever.
But you want a Democrat and a Republican on at the same
You
time
bet.
so that you can
You
talk to
bet.
both of them at the same time.
We
Okay.
used to do that.
Actually,
we used to do that all the
been,
time.
That's been noticed by the actually CEO of C-SPAN has approached me on that, and I'm okay with it. And I think most Democrats would be okay with it. There's several people that I have very friendly banter with all the time about bipartisan solutions. We're going to need something for Social Security, something for Medicare when it comes to these massive spending programs that we have to solve, without which we would have an automatic 21% cut to Social Security within the next 10 years. Same thing, you'll have 11% cut to Medicare. We're going to have bipartisan talks. I'm happy to do that on C-SPAN or any other venue. I've been on other venues where I do have that, and I think it's a very healthy thing to do. As long as it's not people yelling at each other, that's all I can't stand. That's not getting anything.
As long
done.
as you don't yell at people, Congressman.
That's right.
And it looks like we lost her. I think she had something else to say, but hopefully she'll call us back. Here's David, Denison, Texas, Republican. Good morning.
I definitely agree with the idea of having two opposing views at the same time. I hate this format since it's changed. I hardly watch like I used to. Also, as far as look, one thing that this has helped raise is an awareness that as people are talking about tariffs or taxes, tariffs are an expense and somebody passes it on. You've had people call in that say that the tariffs raise the price to the importer in the United States that's paying it. Now, the exporter into our country is paying the tariff. Now, whether they pass it along or not, that's a different issue. The importer may or may not pay more as a result of that, and whether they pass their reduce their margin, that's a different issue. But it's helped get it in the minds of people that tariffs are an expense, and it might or might not be passed along. Taxes to businesses are expenses. No business pays any taxes. The consumer pays the tax in the context of the price that the business charges for its services. 1817, David Ricardo, one of the preeminent economists of the day, writing in his book on political economy, made that point clear then. It hasn't changed yet. And right now, some of the Republicans are talking about raising taxes on the wealthiest to over 40% or 40%. You get beyond the Laffer curve of 25%, you get less of what you wanted. Trump is doing a great job, and I do disagree with our congressman here on one point. There is no such thing as free trade. Everybody's screwed things around forever. The WTO is responsible for the biggest part of it because we lost control of what we could do with tariffs and controlling our markets with the WTO. We gave up our power on that to the global market, to the globalists. And before that, with GATT, we used tariffs all the time. You've had people call in saying, "Oh, we never used tariffs before." Tariffs were used all the time before the WTO, and we were able to control what was going on with it. We don't have that control now. We have to get manufacturing here. If we had a regular war with China, we would lose. We have no manufacturing. It's the exact opposite between what we were before World War II. We had the manufacturing capacity, but we had no military.
All right,
China's got the manufacturing. We've got the military.
We got that point, David. Let's get Congressman McCormick.
Sure. When you talk about the World Trade Organization, China's been cheating since they joined about 20 years ago. When they came up with the Made in China initiative in 2015, they started instituting all kinds of changes. They've been supplementing the businesses. That's why they put a lot of people out of business, quite frankly. They've been cheating. They've been taken to court. If you look at Catherine Tai's report as the trade ambassador, they've been cheating. They've been taken to court, I think, 27 times, lost every single case. They just get better at cheating. So I agree, the World Trade Organization has not been very good at policing their own. We'll have to do a good job. That's why you do trade tariffs and stuff like that when people are cheating. But overall, I think you're right. It is you accurately described what a tariff is. But a business does pay taxes and passes the cost on to the customer, and we know that already. But I'm a minimal tax guy. I want to have free trade. Obviously, you're never going to have perfect free trade, but that's why we negotiate. That's why we have secretaries. That's why we have presidents that constantly wheel and deal. I mean, that's what we've been doing since the beginning of our country.
Here's Willie in Sycamore, Georgia, Democrat. Hi, Willie.
Hi, good morning. I'm calling to say that all these trade deals and the stuff that's going on here, what they're talking about, all they had to do is watch the golf course. All this stuff is a distraction. It's distracting with all this stuff coming up, what he doing while he over here doing that. You know, about the golf course and the Saudis coming in there to get money. That's what he's doing, distracting everything. All of a sudden, after the golf course, then
What do you mean, Willie? What do you mean after the golf course?
After he left the golf course Saturday, with all them people going there, he met with the Saudis there and stuff, and that's what it's all about. All this tariffs and
Congressman, do you know anything about that?
Sorry, I'm a rugby player, not a golfer. Not sure what you're talking about. Sorry about that.
All right, Mike in Bessemer City, North Carolina, Republican. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes. How you doing, Mr. McCormick? I'm just about these tariffs. We need to do something because, like the previous caller said, we've lost 90,000 manufacturers in this country, and we got to stand up. But one of the main things I want to address is I want the Republicans to be like the Democrats and grow some kahunas. Like that Jamie Raskin always talking crap about Trump and Elon Musk and Jasmine Crockett, the way she's talking. Y'all Republicans stand up and act like them.
Well, you'll see a lot of people standing up. We have fierce debate last night, but we tend to, I always say we shouldn't admonish each other in public. I think it's very important that we do our fighting behind closed doors. It's a biblical principle, but it keeps people from working against each other. We have a lot of fights, but we keep them amongst ourselves most of the time. The people, as a matter of fact, who go out there and display their fights publicly are usually the people who are not getting things done. When it comes to fighting the Democrats, I think you'll see plenty of fighting out there. But once again, the question is, what are we getting done? What are we bringing to the table? How are we actually solving problems? We were up pretty darn late last night trying to come up with some solutions, real solutions, to have the first significant cut in deficit spending since I've been around. I mean, this is something we haven't had a balanced budget since basically back in the 90s. And that was a long time ago, and we're really on a course for a collision with history. And I hope we get something significant done this time, and I think that would be the first time in modern history.
Here's Mickey in Vineland, New Jersey, Independent Line. Good morning.
Good morning. I would like to comment that after World War II, they developed a Marshall Plan to rebuild countries that were devastated by the war, and we rebuilt most of the world. And we rebuilt their industries and their infrastructure and their economies to where these countries, a lot of them, are equal to or above our own now. What we need to do is develop a Marshall Plan 2 to develop our own industries and economies and infrastructure. Not only develop it, but maintain it.
All right, Mickey, let's get a response because we're running low on time. Go ahead, Congressman McCormick.
You're accurate in the fact that Germany and Japan, the two countries we primarily fought against the last in World War II, are the third largest economies in the world. But nobody touches us. We are far and away the biggest economy. We have the best economy. We still have some tweaking to do. Our biggest enemy right now is debt, with approaching $37 trillion of debt. And an increasing prime rate, especially with getting loans to pay off our debt and the interest on our debt. That is our biggest enemy. And if we don't do something about that, that is our biggest problem right now. If we don't do something about that, we will be left in the heap of ashes from former empires and economies because we haven't taken care of our own. I don't have time to go into all the ramifications of not paying down debt, but that's our biggest focus right now.